Bună ziua. Well, today's novel is more correctly described as a novella, and it's Schachnovelle by Stefan Zweig, the Austrian author, and here it is. Schachnovelle, chess novel, translated as The Royal Game. There is a film version of it, which is quite interesting, starring Kurt Jürgens. And it was Stefan Zweig's last work of fiction. He wrote it in 1941, and it was published posthumously after he and his wife committed suicide. They had moved from Austria to America and then to Rio de Janeiro, and he lived in an area overlooking Rio called Petropolis, and became increasingly depressed about the situation in Europe. Don't forget, in 1941 it looked as if the Nazis were going to sweep all before them, and became so depressed that he decided to take his own life, and his wife joined him. So it's an interesting novella which takes place on a cruise ship which is travelling from New York to Buenos Aires, and the two major characters are Centovic, who is a chess player, who is an intuitive chess player. He is what we might call an idiot savant. He's an orphan. His father was killed in a shipping accident on the Danube, and he's been brought up by a pastor and doesn't really communicate with anyone, is very withdrawn, almost sullen, and sits watching the pastor playing a game of chess with the village policeman. The pastor is called away to administer the last rites, and the policeman asks him, "Do you fancy a game?" So they have a game, and Centovic picks it up extremely quickly and manages to beat the policeman. He's described as the Esel von Balaam, Balaam's ass, the donkey in the Bible, in the biblical story, who discovers the power of speech, because this dumb, recalcitrant, rather sullen schoolboy is suddenly able to play chess, and he learns from each game. He's taken to a chess club, and then he's given coaching by a count, and gradually develops into a chess professional, acquiring money, although he's fairly illiterate. The other feature of Centovic is he's incapable of imagining games in his mind. He has to play them out on a board in front of him to learn new moves, and he's extremely motivated by money, to the extent that he advertises soap, allegedly writes a book, but of course it isn't written by him. He just puts his name to it. So he is an extraordinarily gifted chess player he's the current world champion, has beaten all the grandmasters he's encountered. While on the ship travelling to Buenos Aires, he meets an engineer of Scottish origin called McConnor, an oil engineer, who thinks that he can beat Centovic, and a group of them play him. There is only one board on the ship, so they get the board out, and a little posse of McConnor and his friends play Centovic. McConnor is about to make a move, and at that very moment, the next character, the opposite, if you like, of Centovic, who is called Dr. B, says, "Don't make that move," and takes over and directs the group to a draw against Centovic. They managed to draw a game against the world champion, which is incredible. Now, Dr. B is as I said, the opposite of Centovic. He's an extremely cultured man from Austria, from Vienna. He's the fund manager for the royal family and the church. He's very highly connected. He's a very moderate chess player, but is well read and well educated. Now, after the Anschluss, the Nazis had called him in for questioning and put him in a hotel, which they've turned into a prison, in the hope that he will crack under their interrogations and will reveal where the funds for the royal family and the church have been hidden so that they can get their hands on this money. He resists, but is kept in a state of sensory deprivation. He doesn't have anything in his room to read. He's not allowed cigarettes. He can't even look out of the window because the window has been bricked up. So he has nothing to amuse him or to distract him. There's a bit of a theme with all these books, isn't there, about claustrophobia and lack of social engagement. Maybe I'm exteriorizing my own position here. Anyway, he doesn't crack and he doesn't tell the Nazis anything. And one day when he's being interviewed, just before he's interviewed, there's a coat hanging up in the lobby. And he realizes there's a book inside the pocket, and he manages to secrete this book into his trousers and takes it back to his room. And it turns out the book is a series of chess games being worked through. So he fashions chess pieces out of little bits of bread, improvising and using dust and soot to create the black pieces as opposed to the white pieces from his pieces of bread. And by luck, his quilt is in a checkered pattern. So he's able to play out the games of chess and does so, plays them. This leads to a mental breakdown for him because he has to play both parts. He has to play black and white. And gradually has a nervous breakdown and is taken to hospital, where the doctors admit to the Nazis that he is in fact insane and should be released. So he's released. Now the characters on board the ship suggest that Dr. Bay, who is clearly a very gifted chess player, despite his modesty, play Centovic, and Centovic agrees to play the following day. So they play a game, and Dr. Bay wins. He beats the world champion playing on his own. Centovic immediately asks for a rematch. Now this time Centovic uses some tactics. He delays his move. He's allowed 10 minutes for each move, and he delays his move till the 10th minute. Dr. Bay gets extremely agitated by this and drinks lots of water, paces up and down like a caged tiger, and eventually plays the wrong move because he's playing from memory. He's playing the wrong game in his mind and makes a mistake. And his acquaintance from Austria urges him to give up chess and never play again because it will lead to the madness that he experienced when he was imprisoned by the Nazis. So chess, I suppose it's the ultimate psychological battle, and it's a metaphor perhaps for Nazism, isolation, interrogations, and leading to a breakdown. It is a superb read, lots of suspense, lots of tension, and extremely well written. Ironically, Zweig himself was a rather moderate chess player. He used to play with an author friend in Petropolis, but his friend said he just had to let him win every so often because Zweig was such a poor player. So, Schachnovelle, or The Royal Game, by Stefan Zweig. And if you want to read another series of short stories by Zweig, he wrote a series of 10 historical miniatures called Shooting Stars about people who have shaped our world. Shooting Stars by Stefan Zweig, and I can recommend that. Give Stefan Zweig a go if you haven't read him, and I'd say Schachnovelle is probably his best known work. Thank you very much. La rivedere.